The topic I will be discussing today is body language in a professional setting for my informative speech. Walden University states that 65% of interpersonal communication is conveyed nonverbally, therefore it's essential to learn nonverbal forms of communication as it can strengthen leadership styles. Looking into my thesis, it states that developing nonverbal forms of communication such as posture and facial expressions can be beneficial when reinforcing professional standing and advancing one's career. I took the time to write a summary briefly about all the topics I'll be discussing today. Let's roll into my main point. According to Forbes, it states that you make an impression every 7 seconds in the 5 ways body languages impact leadership results article. Some frequently asked questions are: can negative forms of body language prevent potential promotions? While it is important to understand that habitual movements can be translated as pessimistic influences that result in rejection, and is nonverbal forms of communication beneficial to master as a leader or manager? Some influences that team members have on their behavior or performance are based off of negative body languages that managers give off, such as looking at their watch for the time. So changing to positive forms of communication, such as smiling brightly and having direct eye contact, as well as sitting upright whenever discussing with a team member, can boost performance. Top management is typically leaders, so CEOs, and the very top, like vice presidents and a president of the company. Middle management is typically like a regional manager or a district manager. Supervisors are usually general managers or assistant managers or store leaders, and employees can range from new hires to interviewees to even team members. So on the bottom end, whenever considering promotion, it's important that one understands that habitual movements such as slouching, rolling the eyes, pursing the lips are important to take into consideration when attempting to communicate, as 55% of communication is nonverbal. Therefore, it's beneficial to consciously change the way that one discerns themselves. Only 38% is vocal and 7% is words. So High Rise published the 5 C's of communication, and it states that effective communication are excellent solutions to ineffective workplace communication. So being clear, concise, concrete, curious, and compassionate when building connections and respecting others' experiences are very important to take into consideration. Some other specific forms of body language can be described as hand gestures, like shaking hands, giving a thumbs up, patting on the back, or giving a hug even, is very important whenever taking into consideration to nonverbal communications, as it significantly enriches the way we interact with others, like colleagues or clients that we have. While discussing colleagues and clients, it is also important to know that in different regions and different countries of the world, some body languages and some hand gestures can be taken negatively. So for example, in Japan, whenever shaking the hands, it's only typical in the United States, whereas in Japan it's bowing. They bow to each other, and that's a form of body language communication because it shows respect. Another thing is, in Africa and in the Middle East, giving somebody a thumbs up is usually not a positive way of communicating, as it is in the United States of America. So it's important to take in cultural communication and cultural impacts whenever you're considering body language. So let's take a review of all the things that we've discussed today. I have provided information that simplifies the influences of body language, showing an assortment of examples and expectations based on the chain of command. So like we discussed in our range of staff members' objectives, the top management, the middle management, the supervisor, and an employee. And also we discussed briefly about how it is important for an employee to consider their habitual movements, such as slouching, folding the arms, which can be considered being cold, just some things that are typical to see in forms of body language, pursing of the lips, or rolling the eyes. Those are things to take into consideration whenever you're simply an employee, so that you can have promotional standing and advancing the career. And then finally, introducing positive ways to communicate effectively using nonverbal forms of communication. So we discussed hand gestures, and it's important to note different cultural impacts. So those are things that I've talked about today. And lastly, all of my works cited. So I added all of my works cited at the very end that I utilized in my outline, whereas we have only been required to put in 3 in our video, but I decided to put in all of mine that I put in my outline for just in case. So thank you for listening to my video. I hope that you were informed justly about the positive and negative impacts of body language in the professional setting.